Most women spend their lives trying to be understood. But the woman he cannot figure out. She haunts him. She walks into a room, and it isn't her beauty that turns heads. It's the gravity around her, the unspoken chaos beneath her calm. A mystery the male psyche shaped by logic and conquest cannot solve. She is not performative, not begging to be chosen. She is already whole. She speaks in riddles not for attention, but because the depth of her soul cannot be condensed into small talk or surface-level charm, and it drives him mad. In the quiet of the night, when the ego fades and the unconscious stirs, she returns to him, not in body, but in symbol. She is the Anima, the feminine archetype within the man's psyche. According to Jung, she represents what he cannot yet access within himself: his feeling function, his soul, his creativity, his intuition. And if she is incomprehensible, it is because he has not yet met those parts of himself. He does not desire her because she is perfect. He desires her because she disrupts the story he's told himself about love, about women, about who he is. She awakens the archetypal chase, not of body, but of soul. You, woman who cannot be explained, are not just resisting him, you are reflecting him. And that reflection, it's distorted in his mind, because it bypasses his ego and hits the wound. The mother wound, the shame wound, the wound of never being enough. So he calls you complicated. He tells others you're too much. He clings, then ghosts, admires, then withdraws. And it has nothing to do with you. Because when a man is not ready to confront the unconscious, he projects. Jung warned us, the more unconscious the content, the more destructive the projection. He turns your silence into rejection, your power into arrogance, your independence into coldness, not because you are those things, but because those are the masks he wears in the mirror, and you've shattered the illusion. Do you feel it? That sting of being misunderstood again, that ache of being punished for your depth. But hold steady, because your mystery is not a tactic, it's a truth. You were not made to be read like a headline or consumed like entertainment. You are a labyrinth, a sacred puzzle, not for the weak, not for the impatient, and certainly not for the man still seeking a reflection instead of a relationship. The men who say they want a strong woman often mean they want a woman who appears strong, but never threatens the parts of them they've refused to face. But you are strength, not just in voice or stance, but in your stillness, in your refusal to perform, in your ability to sit with your shadow and not flinch. You've danced with shame, you've held betrayal and let it burn you clean. You no longer beg for belonging, you belong to yourself. And that is the rarest thing in the world. So of course he wants you, desperately, but not because you are easy, because you are rare, because his soul recognizes something his mind cannot yet name. To understand you would be to understand his own darkness. To get close would require disarming the very defenses that have protected him since boyhood, and some men would rather die than face that vulnerability. So they label you toxic, confusing, unattainable. Let them. The truth is, you were never meant to be understood by everyone. You are not the final chapter in a man's ego-driven journey. You are the beginning of his awakening if he dares to walk that path. And if he doesn't, you don't lose, because you don't shrink to be chosen. You don't dim your flame for comfort. You are the fire that teaches him to burn away the false self. And that, dear soul, is why men desire the woman they can't understand. She is not a fantasy. She is a mirror that refuses to lie. She enters his psyche like a storm he never saw coming. Subtle at first, like the shadow of a dream he can't quite remember. But the moment he feels her presence, something ancient stirs within him. It's not lust, not even love in the way he's been taught. It is recognition, not of her, but of himself, buried beneath layers of armor and unfinished stories. And that is why she terrifies him. You see, the woman he can't understand doesn't exist merely in the flesh. She exists in the realm of archetypes, where the anima lives and breathes. She is a symbol of the unintegrated feminine fluid, intuitive, boundless. She does not follow linear time. She moves in cycles, in seasons. She is not something he can conquer. She is a realm he must enter, and to do so, he must first shed his sword. Most men are not ready to lay down their weapons, because the path to her is not paved with grand gestures or romantic words. It requires silence, stillness, a confrontation with the chaos inside the chaos she so effortlessly evokes just by existing. He watches her from afar, wondering why he can't look away, why her laughter feels like a memory and her absence like a prophecy. He's dated others, more agreeable, more available, more sensible, but they didn't shake him. They didn't leave an echo in the caverns of his soul. She did, because she is not just a woman. She is the rite of passage, the test, the crossroads between who he is and who he could be. You, woman of fire and mystery, are not here to be decoded. You are here to be witnessed, and only the man who has walked through his own inferno will have eyes clear enough to truly see you. For the rest, you remain a paradox. They call you distant when you're simply discerning, cold when you're conserving your sacred energy, difficult when you refuse to shrink for their comfort. But let them speak. Their words are projections, not truths. You've learned to decipher this now, because you too once longed to be understood. You used to shrink yourself, simplify your soul, over-explain your magic, hoping that someone, anyone, would finally say, "Ah, now I see you." But then you realize to be seen by eyes that do not know their own darkness is not visibility, it is distortion. So you stopped apologizing for your complexity. You stopped editing your truth. And in doing so, you awakened something so powerful that even men who fear you cannot look away. This is the silent power of individuation. Jung did not romanticize the process. He knew the journey to the self is a brutal unraveling, and you in your raw, radiant evolution have become the embodiment of that path. You no longer belong to the collective persona that tells women to be digestible, palatable, pretty, but never powerful. You are the woman who sits at the edge of the collective unconscious and dares to speak of things most pretend not to feel. And so he comes closer, hesitant, compelled. Not because he is ready, but because your very existence threatens the cage he's called home. He watches you speak, not to charm, but to reveal. You speak with the authority of someone who has met herself in the dark and didn't run. He cannot follow you with logic. Your presence makes him aware of all the places within himself he has abandoned. And that is irresistible. But it is not the kind of desire that rushes in with heat and fades with time. It is the kind that lingers. The kind that builds slowly, painfully, like the ache of something lost long ago. He may not act on it. He may never say a word. But he will remember you. Not for how you touched him, but for how you made him feel himself for the first time. And if you're wondering why he pulled away, why he praised your soul and then vanished, it's not because you were too much. It's because you were the mirror, and he was not ready to see his reflection. Let him go. Let him circle his own shadows. Let him chase ghosts if he must. Because your worth is not measured by the capacity of another to understand you. Your depth is not a burden. It is your birthright. He will try to forget you. He will bury himself in distraction, another woman, another job, another pursuit. that promises mastery without mystery. Because mastery is what he was taught to chase. Control, achievement, the illusion of dominance in a world where vulnerability is whispered like a curse. But you offered him no control, only reflection. And reflection is dangerous when the soul has gone neglected. In your presence, he caught glimpses, not just of you, but of himself. The boy who never felt safe to cry. The man who was told love is possession, not presence. The fractured pieces of identity held together by performance. All of it started to shake loose when you looked at him not with need, but with knowing. Because you never needed him. Not to save you, not to validate you, not to complete you. And that was the deepest cut. In the story most men carry, they are the savior, the hero. But when faced with a woman who saves herself, who crowns her own soul, the narrative collapses. There is no dragon to slay, no damsel to rescue, only a woman who has already walked through fire and emerged whole. That kind of woman does not offer him escape. She offers him evolution. But evolution hurts. And so he recoils. Maybe not with malice, but with fear. He wants to label it, explain it, say you're too guarded, too wild, too intense. But what he really means is, you make me feel things I've locked away. And for that, you are unforgettable. You live in the liminal space between fear and longing. You are the chaos he secretly craves, the quiet he doesn't understand, the wound he won't touch. He studies you like a myth, and yet still doesn't believe you're real. Because real women are supposed to be predictable, linear, safe. But you are lunar. You wax and wane. You hold contradictions without apology. You can be soft and savage in a single breath. You are not linear. You are alchemical. And only the man brave enough to die to his former self can meet you there. So you wait for no one. You do not linger at the threshold hoping someone will follow. You are not the echo. You are the voice. You do not shrink into silence hoping to be heard. You speak, knowing your vibration will find the soul ready to receive it. He may come back. He often does. But not all returns are rebirths. Some are echoes of the ego clinging to what it could not consume. And you have no interest in being consumed. Because what he truly desires is not your body. It's your sovereignty. The untouchable part of you. The part that doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't compromise her soul to fit someone else's story. That is what confuses him. That is what calls to him. And make no mistake, the call is ancient. Older than language, it is the call of the sacred feminine, the force that does not beg, but magnetizes. Not with performance, but with presence. Do you feel the ache of being this woman, the isolation, the constant misinterpretation, the loneliness of depth in a world addicted to surfaces? It is not your imagination. This path is not easy, but it is holy, because you are not here to be understood. You are here to be real, to be the embodiment of what cannot be tamed or taught or owned. You are here to be remembered, and those who cannot meet you in that remembrance will fall away, not because you are unworthy, but because they are still asleep, still building castles in sand, still chasing shadows and calling them love. Let them go, with grace, with fire, with peace. Because the woman who cannot be understood is not a mystery to be solved. She is a truth to be earned. She does not need to raise her voice to be heard. Her silence says enough. It demands presence. It shakes assumptions. It unnerves men who are used to decoding desire through performance, who were taught that if a woman wants you, she must show it in submission. But she doesn't submit. She chooses. And therein lies her power. Not in resistance for resistance' sake, but in discernment, born from depth. She has walked the corridors of her own soul. She has met her shame, held her rage, forgiven her younger self. She has done the work. So when she loves, it is sacred. When she gives, it is whole. When she leaves, it is final. This kind of woman is not found. She is summoned. She is drawn to the man who has dared to dismantle himself, who has looked in the mirror and said, "I no longer want to be admired. I want to be known." But do you know how rare that is? Most men are not taught how to know themselves. They are taught to perform, to compete, to pursue certainty and call it strength. They are taught to desire the woman who makes sense, the woman who reflects their ego back with admiration. But admiration is not intimacy. And when he meets you, he feels that difference viscerally. You are not the trophy at the end of his hero's journey. You are the journey. You trigger something he can't name, the part of him that remembers the feminine as a force of initiation, not indulgence. The part that knows deep down the woman he cannot understand is the woman who will change him. But to be changed is to be undone. And so he resists. He retreats into the comfort of what he can predict. He tries to measure you with metrics that make sense in the daylight, but you are a midnight creature. Lunar, liminal. You cannot be measured, only met. And he will not meet you until he meets himself, until he stops seeing you as a mirror for his ideal and starts seeing you as a portal to his unknown. That is the threshold few ever cross, because it requires the death of the persona, the collapse of every mask he's worn to be good enough. You don't crave his validation. You crave his presence, the unmasked, unpolished presence of a man who is not trying to impress you, not trying to possess you, but to witness you. Not from a place of fear, but reverence. And reverence cannot be faked. It must rise from within. But what about the ache you feel when you're constantly misunderstood? The hunger to be held by someone who doesn't flinch when you reveal your shadows. That hunger is holy. Don't numb it. Don't shrink it to fit a love that lacks depth. You were never meant to starve in shallow waters. You are the deep, and only the deep can hold you. So let them call you intense. Let them label your mystery. Let them try to solve you like a riddle, because in their attempts to decode you, they reveal themselves, their limitations, their fears, their unmet parts. You owe no one your softness until they've earned your truth. And the man who is worthy, he will not seek to understand you. He will seek to meet you, not with answers, but with awe, not with strategy, but surrender. Because the woman who cannot be understood is not a puzzle to be completed. She is a truth that reshapes everything she touches. She is not looking for a man who gets her. She is waiting for the man who is brave enough to get lost in her. There is something feral in her, not savage, but sovereign. She does not chase. She does not beg. She does not barter her magic for crumbs of affection, because she remembers who she is even when the world forgets, especially when a man forgets. She is the moonlight that doesn't need to explain its glow, the fire that warms or devours depending on how it's approached, the wild woman who no longer fears abandonment because she no longer abandons herself. And when a man stands before her, unsure, trembling, intoxicated by the pull of something he can't name, it is not her beauty that unravels him. It is her knowing, her clarity, her lack of need. For she does not demand anything, but her presence asks everything. This is the paradox he cannot reconcile. She offers no guarantees, no performance of devotion, and yet he aches for her in places he never knew were empty. His mind tries to categorize her. Maybe she's playing a game. Maybe she's unavailable. Maybe she's broken. But deep down, he knows. She is whole. That's what terrifies him. Because if she is whole, he cannot complete her. The myth collapses. The pedestal crumbles. He cannot be the savior here. And for a man whose identity rests on being needed, this is the deepest ego, death of all. But to you, woman of depth, this is not cruelty. It is clarity. You've played the roles before. The understanding girl, the accommodating lover, the one who explained herself, softened herself, translated herself into palatable pieces, hoping someone would finally say, "Ah, now I love you." But you've buried that version now. You know now that shrinking is not love, that being seen only in fragments is not intimacy, that if a man must simplify you to desire you, he does not truly see you, and you would rather walk alone in the fullness of your being than be touched by hands that do not tremble in reverence. This is your power, the refusal to make yourself less mysterious for a man's comfort, the courage to stay undefinable even when loneliness visits, because loneliness in your truth is still holier than being adored in a lie. So when they say you're hard to love, remember this. You are not hard to love. You are hard to manipulate, hard to impress, hard to deceive, hard to own, and in a world built on control and illusion that makes you dangerous. To the man still ruled by his unexamined ego, you are a threat. But to the man seeking freedom from himself, you are a map. Not a destination, not a prize, but a map to his own awakening. He will feel it the moment he stops trying to understand you and starts trying to feel himself in your presence. When he listens not to respond, but to receive. When he looks into your eyes and does not seek answers, but asks better questions. Then, and only then, does desire become devotion. Not worship of your beauty, but respect for your wholeness. Not hunger for your light, but willingness to walk beside you in the dark. You do not need to make it easy for him. Do not dilute your truth into digestible sentences. Let him sit in the discomfort of not knowing. Let him sweat in the space between your gaze and your silence. Because if he is worthy, he will rise. Not with arrogance, but with humility. Not to possess you, but to stand beside you with his own soul intact. And when he does, you won't have to explain a thing. He will meet your mystery not with fear, but with familiarity. Because he will have met the same mystery inside himself. And in that moment, quiet, wordless, eternal, you will know. He has arrived, not as a savior, not as a seeker, not even as a lover, but as a man who has shed the masks, who no longer runs from his shadows or projects them onto yours. A man who has held his own inner chaos and found stillness, who has lost everything false and emerged with nothing to prove. He will not ask you to make sense. He will not ask you to soften your truth or translate your soul. He will not flinch when you cry, nor falter when you rage. He will witness, and in witnessing revere, because he will have learned that your depth is not a challenge to be conquered. It is a sacred place to be invited into. And he knows that the invitation cannot be forced. It is earned through presence, through integrity, through the slow, patient dance of two sovereign beings choosing not to control, but to see. No games, no power struggles, no fear disguised as passion, just truth, raw, unedited, and holy, because the woman he could never understand is not a riddle. She is a revelation, a force of nature too ancient to be explained, too real to be reduced, too luminous to be owned. She exists outside the ego's reach. She is the mirror that does not reflect the man he pretends to be, but the man he could be if he's willing to die and be reborn. If he's willing to trade certainty for soul comfort for consciousness. This is the final truth. You were never made to be understood. You were made to remind. to remind him of the divine feminine within himself, to remind him that love is not safety, it is surrender, that wholeness does not come from another, but from within. And if he cannot walk that path with you, you will not fall to your knees and beg. You will not dim your light or hide your scars. You will not shapeshift into something smaller just to be held, because you are already held by your own arms, by your own fire, by the universe that made you untamed on purpose. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. And only the man who meets you as your equal will be chosen, because you no longer desire to be desired. You desire to be met. And the man who meets you fully, he will not need to understand you. He will feel you, and in feeling you, he will finally feel himself. And in that union, not of dependency, not of fantasy, but of soul, there is no control, no fear, no confusion, just two whole beings standing unmasked, unafraid. She is no longer haunted by the ache of being misunderstood. She is home, and the world may still whisper, "She is too much," but she smiles because she knows now. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.